From invisible to essential, the story of Ana Sánchez will touch your heart. Ana Sánchez is just another anonymous employee in a large company in Monterrey, but she hides an extraordinary talent. She speaks 9 languages. When a lost visitor hears her speaking French, everything changes. After being ignored for years, Ana finally finds her voice, confronting prejudice and earning respect. She becomes the key to the company's transformation, overcoming cultural barriers and proving that true strength lies in who we are, not in the position we hold. In a corporate tower in Monterrey, Mexico, the hum of busy offices and the constant shuffle of employees had become the backdrop of Ana Sánchez's life. Every morning, she walked through the hallways of the company, a simple gray uniform draped over her slight frame, a mop and bucket in hand. To the staff, she was invisible, a face that no one ever bothered to remember, a shadow among the polished executives, always in the background, but never seen. No one knew her name, her struggles, or the immense talent she hid behind her silence. Ana spoke 9 languages: French, English, German, Russian, Arabic, Italian, and more. But to the company, she was just the cleaning lady, the person who made sure the floors were spotless and the offices immaculate. She was as much a part of the scenery as the potted plants or the vending machines in the hallway. What they didn't know was that Ana had a story, one of survival, resilience, and dreams deferred. A story that the world needed to hear. She had come to Monterrey from Colombia, carrying nothing but a worn-out diploma and her daughter, Andrea, by her side. They had left behind everything for a fresh start, but Ana quickly realized that her degrees, her knowledge, and her expertise meant nothing in this foreign land. In a world obsessed with status and power, she was just another cog in the machine, forgotten and overlooked. However, the moment was coming. The moment when her voice would be heard, when the quiet woman who had never been noticed would become the key to unlocking something much greater than herself. What would happen when the highest-ranking executive in the company discovered the hidden talent of the most ignored person in the building? This is the story of Ana Sánchez, an invisible woman who would one day change everything. Every day at 6:40 a.m., Ana Sánchez made her way through the company's sleek reception area. Her hair was tied up with a colorful scarf, her hands clutching a bucket and mop as she walked down the pristine marble floors. No one acknowledged her, and that was just how it had always been. Employees with coffee cups in hand, their cell, phones glued to their ears, would step aside as if she were part of the furniture, silent, invisible, and unnoticed. Ana's daily routine was an exercise in humility. She cleaned the offices of executives and managers, moving with purpose as the chaos of corporate life unfolded around her. High heels clicked on the floors as men and women rushed to meetings, barely glancing in her direction. She would pass them, everyday faces she saw daily, but whose names she would never know. Asterisk to everyone, Ana was just the cleaning lady, a role no one questioned, no one thought to expand upon. She was a fixture in the building, her existence defined by the job she did and nothing more. She didn't speak to anyone, never crossed paths with the executives, unless it was to clear away crumbs from their lunch meetings. Her world was small, limited to the mop in her hand and the halls she walked alone. But one morning, as Ana made her way past the reception desk, something unusual happened. A man entered the lobby, looking lost and frantic. His accent was unmistakable, deep, melodic French laced with an African tone. He was speaking quickly to the receptionist, asking for the boardroom on the 10th floor. She smiled awkwardly, but her confusion was evident. She fumbled with her phone, trying to type the directions into a translation app, but the words on her screen weren't helping. The man grew more impatient, his frustration mounting. Ana, who had been kneeling near a trash can, paused. Something inside her stirred. She looked up and without thinking, rose to her feet. As the man turned toward her, she smiled gently and in fluent French said, "Excusez-moi, monsieur. You're looking for the boardroom. It's on the 10th floor, at the end of the hall, on the left." The entire reception area fell silent. The receptionist froze, her eyes wide in disbelief. The visitor's face softened, a look of relief washing over him. He nodded, his gratitude clear, and quickly walked toward the elevators. Aina went back to her task, as though nothing extraordinary had just occurred. Yet, someone had been watching from above. From the mezzanine, Alejandro Herrera, the newly appointed CEO of the company, stood observing the exchange, his sharp eyes catching the moment Aina spoke. He had heard the French. He had seen the confidence in her voice. And he wondered, who? Is she? The moment Aina spoke in flawless French, the silence in the reception area was almost suffocating. It wasn't just the words that lingered in the air. It was the look on the visitor's face, the gratitude mixed with confusion. It was as though he had seen something in Aina that no one else had. And for a brief, fleeting moment, a strange shift occurred. As the visitor hurried toward the elevator, Alejandro Herrera, the new CEO of the company, remained standing on the mezzanine. His eyes followed Aina, tracking her every move. The CEO had arrived just in time to witness something he wasn't expecting. Something that piqued his curiosity and made him question everything he thought he knew about the people working under his roof. Alejandro, who had spent years in the corporate world, was accustomed to seeing the polished, the perfect, the powerful. He had met CEOs, presidents, investors, people who commanded attention the moment they entered a room. But Aina, the woman who had just spoken in French, as if it were second nature, was different. His assistant, standing next to him, casually remarked with a dismissive tone. She probably memorized a line or two from a language app. "It's nothing special." But Alejandro didn't answer. He didn't need to. He couldn't take his eyes off Aina. She walked away with the same quiet, unassuming presence she always had, as though she had never spoken a word of French in her life. But Alejandro knew something had just shifted. There was more to Aina than anyone realized. He didn't understand it, but he felt it, the deep, almost imperceptible sense that this moment, this small exchange, had opened a door that, for years, had been shut tight. And he found himself wondering, what other doors could she open? As the day went on, Alejandro couldn't shake the thought of Aina from his mind. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why was she hidden behind that dull gray uniform, silently passing through the corridors while the rest of the building buzzed with life? Aina's story, though, was a quiet one, tucked away in the corners of her heart. It was a story she didn't share, not with anyone, not even with herself at times. She had come to Monterrey from Colombia with nothing but her daughter, Andrea, and the weight of an education that meant little in the face of the harsh realities of life in a foreign country. She had a degree, hard-earned and fought for, in a public university in Colombia. But in Mexico, it held no value. It was like an anchor tied to her, keeping her from moving forward. She lived in a small apartment on the top floor of a modest housing complex. One room, one bed, the kind of life that didn't show in the glossy brochures of the city, but one she fought to make work. At night, she would share that bed with Andrea, the two of them falling asleep side by side. Her daughter had dreams, of her own dreams of a future that seemed just out of reach. "Mom, do you think you'll ever teach again?" Andrea would ask, her face full of hope and concern. Aina would smile, her voice soft but carrying the weight of unspoken things. "Maybe, daughter, but for now we are learning here, together." It wasn't the life Aina had envisioned for herself, but it was the life she had made, the life she was surviving. And though she often felt invisible, Unimportant, she held on to something. Her red notebook, the one thing that was truly hers. The only reminder of the woman she had once been, and the woman she could still become. The notebook was filled with translations, phrases in 9 different languages, snippets of poetry, and African proverbs her mother had taught her. Her father's wisdom echoed in the pages. The right word is like a key. It can open any door. And Aina believed him. She believed that one day her words would be the key to unlocking a door that had been closed to her for far too long. Aina's red notebook was much more than a collection of words. It was a lifeline. Each phrase she wrote, each word she translated, was a step towards something bigger, something better. As she cleaned the offices, she listened to the world around her, not out of curiosity, but because it was the only way she could learn. She listened to podcasts in Italian, interviews in Russian, speeches in English. Her headphones, tucked beneath her colorful scarf, became her classroom. She would stop cleaning for a moment to jot down a new word in her notebook, carefully translating it with the same precision that she used to clean every office, every desk. Her hands had become as skilled at writing as they were at wiping down surfaces. And one day, it all clicked. She understood the French visitor perfectly, not because of luck, but because she had spent years learning, listening, and memorizing it. Wasn't a miracle. It was memory. It was the product of choice. It was resistance. Aina's life, though full of hidden talents and untold stories, continued to be lived in the shadows of others. She moved like a wisp of air through the building, silent, unnoticed. The day-to-day tasks of cleaning were repetitive, mechanical even, but they allowed her to listen, to absorb the world around her. Even if no one realized every morning, Aina entered the offices where high-powered meetings took place, where fortunes were made and lost, where decisions were drawn in sharp lines. The gleaming glass walls and marble floors were a stark contrast to her humble reality. But despite it all, Aina didn't resent it. She simply understood her place. With meticulous care, she cleaned the desks where executives sat, rearranging papers, erasing small signs of life, coffee rings, crumbs, stray pens, and putting everything back into order. The hum of the office didn't faze her. It was background noise. A white noise that blended with the steady rhythm of her work. But one detail began to get under her skin, even if she didn't show it. Every day she passed the same people, the same indifferent glances, the same polite nods, and often no nod at all, the same whispers of superiority as they rushed by. "The cleaning lady is in the elevator again," one manager murmured to another, as if Aina weren't standing just inches away, listening, absorbing every word. She didn't respond. She never did. But inside, a fire was slowly kindling. One that had been lit years ago, the moment she realized that she wasn't like them. She wasn't part of their world. But she was also different in ways they could never imagine. One afternoon, she was wiping down the desk of an executive when the door to the office opened. The man who entered was unfamiliar to her. He was dressed in a light gray suit, his face stern. He was talking in Arabic to a colleague, his words fast, clipped. Aina couldn't help herself. She listened, her mind automatically translating the words. "Good morning. Are you representing the Lebanese government?" she said in fluent Arabic. Before she could stop herself, the man stopped, frozen. His colleague looked at Aina in surprise. The conversation shifted to her. The foreigner nodded, smiling slightly. "Yes, I am representing the Lebanese government. You speak Arabic?" Aina nodded, her heart racing, but she maintained composure. She had been invisible for so long, but here, now, in this moment, she felt seen. She wasn't just the cleaning lady. In that moment, she was something more. Before she could say anything more, Alvaro Duarte, the human resources director, burst into the room, his expression as cold as always. He looked at Aina, then the foreign man, then back at Aina with barely concealed contempt. "Aina," he said sharply, "you shouldn't be here. Please return to your duties. We'll take it from here." Aina felt the weight of his gaze, but she didn't flinch. She nodded quietly, offering a slight bow as she backed out of the room. As the door closed behind her, she felt the weight of Alvaro's words like a slap, even though she never let it show. Just a cleaning lady, he had sighed, dismissing her so easily as though her presence meant nothing. But Aina didn't let his words tear her down. She didn't say a word, but inside something shifted. She was more than just a cleaning lady, and someday someone would realize it. As the days passed, a sense of tension built in the air. Aina could feel it, even if she couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from. It wasn't just the typical office chaos. It was something deeper. A shift, though slight, had begun. The company was hosting a major international conference, and executives were scrambling to prepare. Investors from Japan, Germany, and South Africa were arriving soon. Aina's routine had been disrupted, with everyone running to finalize details. The office buzzed with urgency, and Aina quietly moved through the halls, invisible as always. But something was different today. There was an undercurrent of expectation. Something had changed, and she felt it in her bones. As she passed by the meeting rooms on the top floor, she overheard a conversation. The Japanese interpreter, one of the company's official translators, had missed his flight. Panic filled the room. This was crucial. There could be no delays. The meeting had to go smoothly, or they risked losing valuable clients. Aina paused, her heart skipping a beat. She wasn't supposed to be a part of this, but the languages, the words they spoke, the rush of emotions they were trying to convey, all of it was within her reach. She could help. Without thinking, Aina stepped forward. She knocked lightly on the door, her voice calm but unwavering. "Excuse me," she said. "I can help. I speak Japanese." The room went silent. The executives turned toward her, disbelief flashing across their faces. One of the senior managers eyed her, skeptical. "You speak Japanese?" he asked, his tone dripping with doubt. Aina nodded. "Yes, I do." Alejandro Herrera, the CEO, who had been standing at the back of the room, watched in silence. He had noticed Aina before. Her calm, quiet confidence had caught his attention. But now, as he watched her speak, his curiosity deepened. Aina stepped into the room, taking the seat of the interpreter with a quiet assurance. As the conversation resumed, she translated the technical terms, the nuances, the small details that only someone with a deep understanding of the language could grasp. She didn't just translate words, she translated meaning. Her clarity and precision impressed everyone in the room. When the meeting ended, the room was in stunned silence. Alejandro approached Aina, his eyes filled with a new understanding. He had seen something extraordinary. In Aina Sánchez, he had found something rare. Later that afternoon, the tension came to a head. Alvaro Duarte, the ever-persistent thorn. In Aina's side was furious. He had overheard the meeting, heard Aina's flawless translation, and he was irate. He stormed into the hallway, his gaze fixed on her. "Aina," he said with a sneer, "this is not your place. You have no right to be involved in such important matters. Go back to your cleaning." His words hit Aina like a slap, but she didn't shrink away. She stood tall, her back straight, her eyes meeting his without hesitation. "I don't belong to your mold, Alvaro," she said, her voice calm but unwavering. "But I've earned my place here just as much as anyone else." The words stung him more than he cared to admit, but he didn't back down. Instead, he looked at her with contempt. "We'll see how long this lasts," he muttered, before walking away. The tension continued to rise in the company, but Aina remained focused. The next few days were filled with critical meetings and high-stakes negotiations. As the investors continued to arrive, so did the weight of expectations. Aina was no longer just the cleaning lady. She was an integral part of this new chapter. Then, one morning, Aina was called to the boardroom once again. This time, it was a completely different kind of meeting, one that involved high-level executives and investors. They needed her to translate once again. As she stepped into the room, the weight of the situation pressed down on her. She wasn't nervous, she was ready. She had earned this. In the days that followed, Aina's transformation was undeniable. Alejandro, impressed with her skill and understanding, named her as the company's official intercultural consultant. Her role expanded, and with it, her visibility. No longer would she be confined to the shadows of the company, but not everyone was pleased with this change. Alvaro, in particular, resisted. His power, once absolute, was now under threat. But the truth was clear. Aina had found her place.